Okay, so the argument about conditions that exist first are the instruments for determining outcome, and whether or not we have the capability to overcome these limitations is what is being discussed. Also, along those lines, the idea of structure versus agency. And basically, when I was doing some reading on structure versus agency, I compared it to like a sports team. That was a common comparison that I saw when I did some reading. So, the way I viewed it is when I was trying to come up with whether or not I believe one has more precedence over the other is I thought of a football team. Would I rather have a single individual that may be an awesome quarterback and a great wide receiver and an awesome safety go out on the field by themselves and play against an entire football team that also has individuals talented in these skills? It would be virtually impossible for that individual. It would be impossible for that individual to win if you were playing by the rules, because technically, it wouldn't happen. And then I thought, would I rather have a team full of highly skilled quarterbacks going out onto the field and working together to try to beat the other team? And that almost seemed just as terrible, because you can have an individual who may be great at so many things, but without their group, it's never going to do them any good. Or you can have a group of people that are all great at something, but there's nothing that basically extends, or there's nothing that they can essentially benefit from altogether aside from that one thing. If you have a team full of these, all-star quarterbacks going out there, awesome, yeah, when it comes to someone having to do the duties of a quarterback, great, you have so many people to choose from, but when it comes to putting defense out there, what are you going to do? So basically, I couldn't decide which one would be a worse situation, and that's when I realized that I truly believe that structure and agency complement each other. I believe that they exist because of each other, and this makes a lot of sense when you incorporate it into the argument about having these pre-existing conditions causing limitations. And so if you thought of structure and agency being complements to one another, now you have a football team full of individuals that are great at all aspects of what it takes to make an awesome football team. And now you have a 50-50 chance of going out against another awesome team and winning, as opposed to having almost all the odds stacked up against you by going with either an individual that was great at several different positions or a whole team full of individuals that were good at just one. They definitely coexist. They go very well together in that I don't even mean to say that they incorporate each other for the lack of trying to come up with an idea where one example makes perfect sense for one or the other. I'm stating that I believe they complement each other because I can't come up with an example where either being a complete free agent is the best option, hands down, no matter what, without any type of falsifiable evidence, period. And I can't think of a time where being, looking at the idea of holism is always the answer 100% with no basically anything to prove me wrong. When it comes to something along the lines of limitations in pre-existing conditions, I thought of other examples such as, just trying to think of things that have always worked in the past. So when it comes to the idea of people getting together as a group and everybody's bringing something, into this group, you've got your structure, you've got your agency, you've got people that are able to act out as free agents and to think independently, but then you have all these individuals that have these great ideas and suggestions, and they make up this awesome social group, and now you're thinking about the limitations that come along with it. So if you thought about this football team at halftime all collaborating to try to figure out what it is they need to do to get it together to win the game, but some things have come into play, like one of their best players has been injured, and now they have to figure out how they're going to perform, some of the plays that really pushed them through last time. You got to figure that that's a limitation that they have to overcome. So now it comes down to whether or not they're going to overcome these limitations. Is it possible? Absolutely. pull the second string and see if they're able to pull it off. I mean, that's an option. That's overcoming one of the limitations. I'm obviously not, saying that we can compare everything to a sports game by any means, but on top of everything else, there's always going to be situations. There's times where it pays to be a free agent, and there's times where it pays to work with a group. Obviously, that's the point that I've stressed before. And when it comes to pre-existing conditions, I believe we definitely, as individuals, have the power to overcome these limitations. As a group, it all depends on the overall structure of the group. So, I'm sitting here trying so hard to just blurt out exactly how I would describe what I'm trying to say, besides just restating constantly that I believe that structure and agency complement each other, and that I believe that we do have the capabilities to overcome limitations, because I can't think of just one prime example specifically related to politics or socialism or anything along those lines. All I can really compare it to would be what makes sense to me, and I don't believe that we are wired to overcome limitation, because the way I took that was that any chance we have to overcome the limitation, we should overcome it, because sometimes I believe that boundaries and limits are important. I believe that traffic signals, everybody that's driving a car has the option to run through a red light. They have the option to run through a stop sign. There's nothing that's going to shoot them down if they don't abide by the traffic signals. But at the same time, should they do that every single time that they have the option to do so? No. Chances are, if you run every red light you come across, you're going to get into an accident, or you're going to cause an accident. There's never, and vice versa. Is there a time where you should run a red light? Sure. If you've got someone bleeding out to death in the back of the car and you need to get to a hospital right away, it's probably not in your best interest to abide by that stop sign. I get that. I get that there's always an argument to something. I believe that for the most part, we absolutely always have the power to overcome a limitation. I don't believe in something causing us to never be able to overcome some kind of structure or boundary. I believe if there's a will, there's a way. But I do not always believe that it is the best way. And I don't believe that it is something that should be, you either always stick to the limitations, or you always basically find a way to barricade past them. Again, I believe that all of these options coexist. I believe that everything, everything complements one another, and it's really, in my opinion, on more of a case-by-case level. So, yeah, I guess that's really just how I can try to express where I come from when it comes to trying to compare the structure and agency argument, and when it comes to trying to test limitations in overcoming limitations when there's pre-existing conditions. So